Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Wowhead Weekly number 109. No show last week, no show next week, so we have a lot to talk about this week. But before we get into all of the World of Warcraft news, I would like to introduce my lovely co-host, Wowhead site manager, Perculia.
Hey everyone, we've had a busy week and a half of PTR things, as well as Love is in the Air on live servers and some new fashion merch to talk about. So, yeah, let's start with the 7.2 PTR updates.
Yeah, absolutely. There
Yeah.
is. Okay, so I'm super excited about this. I have a whole bunch of animations that we can look at.
Okay.
Not animations, but I have a whole bunch of like models and stuff for us to
Yeah,
look at.
models first.
Like we talked about how there was the new succubus model and there was the new ghoul model, and then this past week we got the new A-bomb model, and he is
He's
gross.
gross.
Look
I
at all
know.
those
He's so good though.
details. Ah, he's nasty. He's nasty, but he looks great. I mean, for being disgusting, it's like a wonderful,
Yeah. And
delightfully
this
disgusting.
means that ghouls like Stitches get their high resolution updates as well. So,
Yes, yes, he looks
yeah.
awesome and terrifying and gross. Also, okay, so I think this is what you meant by daddy helmet. But this is what Perk had labeled in our notes as daddy helmet, which just absolutely cracks me up. I suppose you meant like Big Daddy from BioShock, but I'm going to the lowest common denominator with that because it's funny to me. But this is a new plate helmet that we pulled from
When
the
I shared it
seven.
on Twitter, like everyone just replied with that, so I was using
Oh
shorthand
yeah, because we're
the
all
helmet doesn't
perverts
have a
on
name.
Twitter, Perk.
Yeah.
You can't listen to us. We can't be trusted. But this is like my favorite thing from Blizzard data ever. I posted this, and you know, if you are under the age of 18, I'm gonna go ahead and say earmuffs right now. But I posted this on Twitter yesterday, and I said, you know, this helmet looks kind of kinky. I wonder what Blizzard's safe word is. If you want to see an entertaining thread of comments, the responses to that tweet were phenomenal. And a bunch of them were Blizzard employees that were like,
Yeah, when I
if
shared it on the Wowhead post, people were just like saying all these like really lewd things that they
it's
wanted
amazing.
Wowhead to do to them. And I'm like, wow, this is like
Rated
awesome, yeah,
rated
user
T for teen.
generation.
Rated
Yeah.
T for teen. This is amazing. So this is a helmet that is coming up.
Uniting
It is.
everyone. Everyone only said positive or funny things about
Oh
the
yeah,
helm. That
nobody's
might be a
mad. Nobody's
first for
mad about this.
content.
It's
Yeah.
just a ridiculous helmet, and this will be coming in patch 7.2. It is for plate wearers, so if you really want to wear this and you're not plate, I guess you're gonna have to re-roll and all because that's just the way it is. But this is hilarious. This is like the most hilarious helmet model of all time. Also, we found this monk pet. This is Banfu, the cub of Banlu. This is from the monk order hall, and this kind of gives us the idea that there are probably pets that go along with the class mounts, because when we
Yeah.
dug a little bit deeper into some of the things that were data mined, we also found Crackers, which is a parrot, which is from the rogue order hall, and 3 different whelplings that come from the Death Knight order halls, and they are the same names as the Death Knight worms, frost worms, well, blood
Yeah,
worms.
I think it's a thing that Blizzard wants to do. I believe one of the developers, when they were replying back to the tweet about the pet, were like, "Oh yeah, more on the way." So hopefully that will be a thing. And I really think it's cute when you have matching mounts and pets, and they have fun little interactions together, like hearts over their head or special animations.
Oh, absolutely. And I kind of love like Crackers. So Crackers wouldn't actually match the Raven mount that Rogues have, but his little flavor text is so cute. It says, "They say Fleet Admiral Tethys was never without his trusty parrot by his side or on his shoulder. Tethys could always call him with a whistle," which makes me feel like this is definitely for what's the
Yeah, I would agree.
what's the new Rogue spec?
Outlaw.
Outlaw. It's for outlaw rogues
Yeah.
because they're pirates. And then
Yep.
also in the data this week, we found these fishing bobbers, which coincide with all of the different zones in the Broken Isles. So I would
Yeah.
assume that the
The head
the
is Azula.
yeah, the head is Azuna, and the little totem is probably High Mountain. I would say that the boat is Suramar, maybe.
Yeah, it's the gondolas you take around the city.
Yeah, and then there's the
The creepy
Vrykul helm.
druid head is Valshara.
Yup,
And then like the weird green fell
he's
thing is
probably the
just.
Broken Shore, right?
I think
Yeah.
it's cool how you can see that when you cast your fishing bobber in the broken shore, it's green. It turns the water like fell green around.
That's
You. I think
hilarious.
it's
I did a video recently on my channel with Nico about our thoughts kind of on Nighthold after it first came out, and 5 minutes of the video was whether or not Croesus was in water or some sort of acid. And that's what that reminded me of when I saw that bobber was resting in green liquid. Like, oh, it's just Croesus water. That's what it is. It's Croesus water. On top of all of these other models, we also have some additional high-res Tier 20 previews. Now, we already had a few up, and they added more this week. So right now we have 9 of 12, all in their high-resolution models. And then on top of that, you can also preview all Tier 20, all 12 classes on your character in the dressing room. So yeah.
So just make sure you go to the PTR version because this is PTR only data.
Yeah, this is PTR content.
Today we got Priest up. I'm not sure if it's in the slideshow, but it's that oh, cool, yay. It's really cool. You should definitely check out the video because the traditional Priest tier has chains, and then there's a blindfold on the face and the shoulders. But the mythic version, the chains are broken and the light streaming out from the eyes, and you see the broken chains floating around, which I think is a pretty cool effect.
Yeah, I really like how much work they put into the mythic versions. The druid one is probably my favorite with all the animal, like spirit animals that come out, but all of the mythic versions look really good, and they did a good job of keeping them true to what that tier aesthetically, was trying to get across, but still making them look a little bit better and a little more epic and flashy than the other kind of not mythic tier sets. I also was really interested in how they handled things like monks and death knights and demon hunters because, as you guys know, tier 20 is heavily inspired. It's almost a rework of tier 6 or like an
and those classes were not present in Burning Crusade.
And I think they did a really great job with that. Like, monks look so monkey. I know that's like such a ridiculous way to
I've heard mixed feedback about Death Knights, but I agree on the other two. I think people hope that Death Knights would look more like Terran Gorefiend, who was, the first original Death Knight.
Well, the Death Knights almost look cartoony a little bit to me. Like,
it's also like, how do you top? I'm not sure how you can top tier 19 for Death Knights because everyone's like, oh my god, like this is Arthas. So maybe they're just like, well, we already had our one, high lore Death Knight fantasy set. Let's be more basic. I'm not sure, but I feel that one could use some more updates. But yeah, Druid is really cool.
Druid is really good, cool. And I really honestly love the monk one.
Yeah. I know people were also concerned about Mage being like, why is the mythic set yellow? Like, yellow doesn't go with anything. Like that's not really true to the tier. But I'd say Mage we got the most pushback on out of all the sets I posted so far.
Yeah.
And people have liked Paladin the most and Priest.
I feel like there's also better mage sets than tier 6 though. I was never a big fan of that, satellite antenna mage set. So that's my thought. I love the warrior one though. Although it does kind of have a Blackrock Foundry feel to it in my opinion, but so
the one thing I'd say about the warrior set is that in Burning Crusade, like you would have the Bulwark of Azeroth to go with your warrior set, and like that was the matching thing. And with artifacts, we don't really have the option to have a shield that matches the tier. So I think it would be really cool if somehow you could get cosmetic, I don't know, like high resolution Bulwark of Azeroth and like the the priest stick that matches a set and the druid stick that matches a set, and you could have those match the tier. I think that would be fun to have.
Yeah, even if they didn't come out with them right now, even if it was something that they added like in 7.3 as something that was like a green or a blue that you got during the event that you could then transmog, because then everybody would already have those tier sets, and if they wanted to transmog them, it would be kind of a good time to do it. But just as a reminder, guys, if you want to see what any of those tier sets look like on your character, you can do that in the dressing room on the PTR version of the Wowhead site. So that's a very cool feature. Check it out, and Sass will go ahead and link that for you if you are curious. Also, thank you so much to Arctara for subscribing to us with Twitch Prime. This is our time to remind you guys, if you do subscribe to us with Twitch Prime, that is not an automatic renewal. You do have to renew it every 30 days, but it's still free. It just it won't automatically renew. So if you want to keep supporting the show and using our little emotes and stuff, make sure you do that. If not, that's okay too. That's fine too. Also coming in 7.2 are a bunch of updates to artifacts, and they're awesome. So we have a couple charts here showing some of the new things that are coming, because there are going to be artifact knowledge ranks up to 50, which means that your bonus artifact power is going to go way, way, way up. But I mean, in the same sense, your traits are going to scale and cost huge, like massively.
Yeah. So one thing that people were confused about was like, how does this all work? Like, what happens if I have 50 traits? Like, what happens to my Paragon points? If I have, 20 Paragon points, what happens to them in 7.2? So we did a lot of testing and calculator updates, and this is basically how it's going to work. So if you have 35 or more traits in 7.2, you get to do this special quest line. And then after the quest line, your artifact weapon UI completely changes. So you can see these new empowered traits in the right-hand corner. And then your 20-point Paragon trait is now split over 2 new traits. So like you can use your old artifact power on like traits 35 and 36, but it's not like 35, to like 54. And then once you do this quest, you can put your points into the new empowered traits, which, as I just mentioned, have the overlap with the old Paragon system, or any of your old 3-point traits are now 4-point traits. So, yeah. And I think people have done the math, and they said that if you had a fully maxed out artifact, when everything gets refunded, you could like go fill up the replacement Paragon, stat increase traits again. And then like it would be harder to get the, ones in the future, but artifact knowledge is, new ranks will get up to 40, scales a lot more, so that should balance itself out. And of course, this is really early, stuff could change. There's like probably like 0.001 like rounding errors with the knowledge, but hopefully this should give you a sense of, if you're really far ahead on your artifact, what's going to happen in 7.2 when you have to, start over from 35.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of math, lots of chart. We did, like I said, all this testing was for the PTR version of the artifact calculator on Wowhead. So you can play around with the traits and start seeing what's going to happen to your weapon in 7.2 and like what new route you want to take with like the new traits or the extra versions of the old traits, etc.
Yeah, because that's a pretty big change with the whole new golden trait and new the fourth point in 3-point traits, and I mean it's a lot of changes.
Yeah, I think it's also important to keep reiterating because I like doing all this testing. I ignored it at first, but the 20 rank Paragon trait, like it's not totally going away. It's like split among 2 differently named traits, where you get like one trait gives you one type of stat increase and the other trait right now gives you a different type of stat increase.
Yeah.
So basically like you get that same power over traits 35 and 36 and 7.2 as opposed to like just this, endless 20-point trait.
Yeah, absolutely. Which should be more fun. Like it should be, rather than just like mindlessly, oh, okay, I only have 1 left, I'm just doing the 1. Like having even one other option makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's, more interesting traits versus just like, oh, I get like 0.5 damage after I threw all this artifact power into it.
Yeah, and then it gets to be millions and millions, and you're like, oh, this is so not worth the effort.
Yep.
But, okay, so what else is happening? Raid testing for the Tomb of Sargeras. I can't believe this. I cannot believe that there are.
We actually we have a question about this from Sass, so I'll just throw it out here right now because if it's into the notes, the person asked, do you guys think testing on PTR for Tomb is too early with Nighthold, only just opening on live a couple weeks ago?
Like, kind of. Especially since we know it's not even coming out. Okay, so 7.2 realistically is spring, like end of March, April, in my opinion, at the earliest. But then Tomb of Sargeras isn't even coming out with 7.2 because they'll have the whole quest line leading up to it with the Broken Shore event and all of that. So we're not even going to get Tomb of Sargeras likely until something that's similar to like 7.25 or something like that. We know it's not opening. So it just seems like how ridiculously early they're testing this. And I don't know if it's because there's new complex things that they're concerned about or if they just are trying to drive high-end raiders to madness.
So, like the official take in this blue post that I'm summarizing was, like, we realized that this is coming right on the heels of plenty of raid content on live servers. We don't want to rush players through content faster than they can enjoy it. But Tomb of Sargeras, at least as far as art assets and most descriptive text, voiceovers, and so forth, needs to be in patch 7.2 data. That means we need to begin testing it far earlier relative to the date when the raid will actually go live than we have in past expansions. Which I get, but I feel, I don't know, like, couldn't they just have, like, a world boss, like, dummy just, like, yelling out voiceover lines? Like, I just feel like it creates the illusion of stress and that the free, like, the Mythic community that's just sort of testing for fun feels stressed out that, like, they feel like they have to start researching and being on top of things, like developing add-ons and making sure the data is correct. And it doesn't affect me directly because, like, I'm not the run that way that is writing the raid guides on Wowhead. But, it was pretty intense having to deal with, PTR data, basically when 7.1.5 went live.
Yeah.
And, like, oh, look, Blizzard broke something on the PTR, but, like, people care about the live news. Like, do we highlight PTR news or, like, live guides today? It felt like one was
keep up on.
Like, one was overshadowing the other, and it's nice to, like, just psychologically feel like you accomplished some big project, whether it's, preparing the site for a patch or, Mythic Nighthold, and then just having a breather before, the next thing so you can be refreshed.
There has been no breathers in our lives recently. It's just been one thing after another. And, and it's not just us either, because Blizzard had this whole big post, and I don't know if this is in our notes later on, but they had this whole big post about how they're going to be handling PTR communication much better going forward. They kind of acknowledge that it's been spotty at best, and that they want to go back to doing like full PTR notes, that they want more people dedicated to answering questions and to responding and stuff. So like, it's not just us and the Mythic communities and like stuff like that, because it's not like it's just me and Perk. There's lots of people who make YouTube videos.
Like Deadly Boss mods.
And
it's
they
like
make boss mods.
And Doom at the same time.
They write guides. They have blogs. And like, when you're piling a brand new patch that just went live on with a brand new PTR patch that's also live at the same time, it's a conflict. I don't know what to do with myself. Like, it's like, do I talk about the WoW token? Do I talk about flying in 7.2? Do I talk about the honor changes in 7.2? Or do I talk about, these Nighthold bosses and the nerfs and hot fixes and stuff like that? It's
sure people will say, oh, you complained that there was a break in Hellfire Citadel and now there's too much too fast. But I feel like we just want, like, always something going on, not like an avalanche of things, because there's only, people have only so many hours to play WoW and work about WoW. Like, even as a player, like, you're just going to not care about news after a certain point.
Yeah,
like,
and what's also
scary on 2 or 3 things.
Yeah, and what's also scary too is that when people complain about things like content droughts, I feel like avalanching, such a good term to use, avalanching the content now makes me worried, like, oh God, like, how is everybody going to keep up with all that they're coming out with? And if they come out with stuff that sort of, trivializes the old stuff before people are finished with it, then, like, they're gonna inadvertently create a content drought by, like, giving us too much too fast.
Right, I'm also, concerned about pacing, because if they're testing for Tomb now, and they've announced 7.3, it's like, and, they said we're not going to have these yearly expansions. It's like, well, so when's the next expansion going to come out? Like, if we're just front loading all of these raids, and Argus, like, is Argus going to be like a year of stuff, or is there going to be a 7.4?
Yeah, and then it's also like, it's just that, like, a lot of content is a good thing, but it's like, I argued a lot during Draenor that I didn't really think there was so much. Yes, there was, especially if you compare it to Legion, there was not nearly as much content. I'm not arguing that there was so much content in Warlords, but what I'm saying is, if the content that they had been paced differently and had different rewards, people's response to it would have been very different. And right now, I feel like a lot of players cannot keep up with how much is coming out. It's just a lot. It's a lot. Like, it's surprising me anytime I hear someone
I feel there's the mindset of, like, you have to do artifact power, you have to do your things for legendaries to keep up with your raid group. And then, like, because, a lot of people are older, they have jobs or, like, family to take care of, like, they can't play WoW the whole day. So it's like, well, I'm going to do the activity to just, keep up with my friends. And then, like, if they feel like they're never going to get a break from, like, running Maw of Souls or whatnot, then they're going to get tired.
Well, and yeah, and it's even like, even things like the way that world quests work right now. Like, I went on vacation and I lost, 8 days, 9 days, almost 10 days worth of world quest, which, like, in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter, but then it also feels bad. It feels like I've fallen behind. And this is the same thing that happened to me in the beginning of the expansion. So now it's like I log on, I've got 3 days in dailies, and it's like, I know I missed Kirin Tor, which is one I always try to do because I want the stupid pet of Khadgar's head. So it's just like, there are little safeguards that they could put in right now with the content. Like, it would be really nice if you could choose to just, like, save one of your world quests for, like, however long you wanted, and that one just wouldn't expire. Maybe you could only do one, though. So then in these situations where people are falling behind, they can at least kind of feel like they can do the thing that they want to do, even if it's part of that mandatory set of stuff, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I just feel like So I think that the way weekly holidays are paced are good. Like, you can do time walking one week or you can PvP one week, and it prevents people from feeling that they always have to time walk or they always have to PvP.
Yeah.
But I feel like we sort of need more guideposts like this because, like there's just like so many. It's just like if you're just like an average WoW player, it's so hard to keep up with being like, oh, like Nighthold just came out, but like Wowhead's posting about this other raid that
This
has tier 20. Like,
yeah,
it's just
usually
it's
when
like
you're
everything is hitting you at once.
Yeah, and usually when you're hearing about the next raid, the raid that you're on is like almost donezo, Like usually by the time you're hearing about a new raid, you're pretty deep into the current raid, and it just
I guess I feel like from a pure perspective, like when a new patch comes out, that's when people naturally feel that they have stuff to do. Like their happiness is usually the highest. And like we're just like they just dumped all the 7.2 stuff when people were already like having new things to do in game. And it's like, well, you should save that when like the interest dies down a little bit.
And it's like I do understand that they do need to test it, but then also
Right.
knowing that it's coming in 7.2.5, it's hard for me to believe, well, we need to test these bosses right now because they need to be in the data in 7.2.
I mean, they have like a Q&A team, and like I said, I'm sure they could just have like, I don't know, like Illidan out on the Broken Shore just yelling his voiceover lines.
Yeah,
instead of, making the top guilds feel they have to go test this.
Well, and that's
right
the thing is they're not going to be testing any balance stuff, and I feel really bad for these top guilds because right now, what is it, 2 guilds, 3 guilds worldwide have down Gul'dan. Like, they're still working on Mythic Gul'dan, and now they feel like they need to go test these other fights. It's just a lot, and I feel like even holding off 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month and letting people sort of, I don't want to say get bored, but just like simmer a little bit on the content that we have before giving them all this new stuff.
Yeah, just like, feel good that you accomplished your like big project and you just want to like rest up and then, try the next round of stuff.
Yeah, and all that being said, I don't want this to come across as us complaining. This is very much just a discussion and a different perspective and a different point of view. It's certainly not a complaint like, oh God, too much content. This is the worst.
Yeah, I do want to say that so far the patch notes, I have been appreciating them when they talk about the specific things coming and when to expect some stuff in the future, because that does help me pace out, like, in a few weeks there will be more quests, so I won't do these buggy quests now. I'll focus on the stuff Blizzard says is like good for testing in this build. But it still is a bit awkward being like, well, there's live stuff, and now I have like a pile of PTR stuff at the exact same time. But
it seems like right now it's just very difficult as a player, as a content creator, as anyone really that's heavily involved in the community. It's just a lot to keep up on. Like, I feel like I haven't even begun to tackle some of the things that are in 7.1.5, and then now I'm trying to kind of focus on 7.2, and it's taking my focus away from 7.1.5, which right now I should be having fun and enjoying.
Like there's a lot of cute stuff in 7.1.5, like the Brawlers Guild is back, and there's lots of stuff with that. There's like shirts, there's all these new bosses, and it's sad that it's like, well, guess I'm playing the PTR instead.
Yeah, it's just, but again, I don't want this to come across as us being very negative and complaining. This is just very much a conversation and a discussion because it's not a terrible problem to have that there's too much content. And all that we're saying is that it could be paced a little bit better. And if the goal is to keep morale up and the goal is to keep people feeling satisfied in their playtime, being overwhelmed and feeling overwhelmed can do the opposite of make them feel good. So I feel like there's a balance that needs to be made of like the amount of content they're releasing at a time, because you don't want to not have enough, but you also like too much can be just as detrimental as not enough.
Yeah, I feel that they definitely wanted to change things from Warlords, and they made that very clear at BlizzCon, that the PTR was always going to be up, but I feel, they're trying something new, and of course the first step is to make sure that, yes, they can have developers crank out content quickly. That's like the initial problem, but now they need to just like package and sort of recalibrate how they roll it out, I think. This is the first test run, I would say.
Yeah, and I think a good example of kind of the repercussions of having so much all at once is like that the Kirin Tor Tavern Crawl couldn't go live. It was tested on PTR realms, and then once it actually went live, they found bugs and problems that did not appear on the PTR, and so like the Kirin Tor Tavern Crawl just kind of didn't happen. And it kind of, even I feel like the micro holidays themselves are kind of getting pushed to the background because people are focused on other things that are coming in the future.
The first micro holiday came out the day after the 7.2 PTR came up, and it was also the day of the Lunar Festival, so I was like, I'm promoting like new tier sets and
Yeah, that was awkward. They shouldn't have had both at
Lunar
once.
Festival and like this other holiday you should do. Like, what do I
The
put on
holidays shouldn't overlap like that. That should be, hopefully next year they'll plan that a little better, because it should definitely be, those micro holidays should come the weekend before or the weekend after, not at the same time.
Yeah, even Love is in the Air. Like, Love is in the Air was February 7th, and February 7th was also LFR and all those other, the usual Tuesday things. Like, people already are looking forward to things on Tuesday, so having the holiday go live on a day where less people play would, probably make more sense.
Yeah. So, anyways, I don't want anybody to feel like we're sitting here like bashing anything. This is very much just another perspective.
The content is really good, and just like how can it be showcased better so each cool thing has its like moment in the sun and gets its attention.
Exactly. It's more of like everything is very cool, and we wish people had time to appreciate how cool the stuff really is.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. I have a bunch of voiceovers that I can play, and I'm going to put a spoiler tag up because I don't want you guys to feel like if you hear things. Do you know how long these are?
Xalatath is like 4 minutes, but Alanet's like 1 minute, and Thalkiel is probably like 2.
Okay, they're not too bad. What could I put up in the... Hold on. Oops. Just ignore that, guys. Let me see if I have just a thing I can put up. All right, here we go. I'll just put this here. As long as you guys are seeing this screen up, if you are concerned about spoilers, please mute. When this screen goes away, it will be safe to unmute. So the first one we are going to listen to is Xalathal, Blade of the Black Empire.
A legion brood, obliterating priceless knowledge. Imagine that. Long has this one been a blight upon your world. Not all his schemes came to fruition, but those that did caused untold ruin. From birth, pit lords are oversized and stupid. Somehow the Legion manages to magnify both traits. At times it seems the Naga beg for scraps from the Legion's table, but the queen they serve wants far more than that. Oh, I do enjoy seeing the shrine of a great enemy profaned by the spirits of its own worshippers. The haughty elves of old had such regard for their own spirits. Such a delicious indignity. Invaders messily corrupting other invaders. Typical. Far more useful to coax them along the proper path. Don't you think? Let me guide your hand as you battle this vessel. Though it retains but a fraction of the fallen Titan's power, you will not survive its onslaught without my expertise. You must face the deceiver on his own ground, where he is vulnerable. Come, let us taste his soul. A remnant of power lingers in this broken temple. It must be ours. Come, enter the circle and take it. My mistake. It seems the upstart goddess still holds sway here. Oh well. So much death here. So much power. Is this not the site of what you mortals consider your greatest humiliation? I hope you fare better this time. I don't believe these lands have seen such carnage since the battle for Catan. Such a long time ago. This was always a place of power. Egwene was drawn here, and before her, the elves, and before them, the trolls. And before them... That fell edifice towering over this land pales in comparison to the grandeur of what stood here long ago. It was here, in ages past, that the god of the deep lost a great battle to the god of seven heads. But as was so often the case, even defeat ultimately worked in N'Zot's favor. This trifling skirmish is little more than a distraction. The true battle draws nigh as the circle nears completion. This conflict is but a shadow of an ancient war that predated the meddling of the Titans. Infinite armies clashed in ceaseless battle. But I'm sure your little war is impressive, in its own way. It took ages to make my return to the surface after the Sundering. The Naga can be so possessive of artifacts. This land has seen so much upheaval. The Cataclysm, the Sundering, the Scouring. You really have no idea. You were a good choice. No other wielder has murdered their way across a continent quite like you have. I admire your endurance. The light would have your kind remain obedient and stagnant. I offer the gifts of freedom and strength. I hope you remember my kindness. Your allies consider me a bad influence. Yet all I've ever done is speed you along the path you chose. I can feel the pulse of your world quickening. Soon, all will be drenched in its lifeblood.
So I feel like it is pretty safe to say that the Shadow Priest dagger has no chill.
No, yeah, it's yeah. It
No
just is throwing shade at everyone.
No chill. Is there any context that anyone should know about that?
So, I mean, if you're playing a Shadow Priest, you are obviously doing your artifact knowledge, and you're, when you read about what the dagger, it it has a pretty shady past.
Yeah.
And people have highlighted some of the lines that they found interesting, like, oh, my mistake, the upstart goddess still holds sway here. Oh well, Elune is there in some form.
She also talks about the old gods, N'Zoth and
Yeah,
Ishaj.
the god of the deep had lost a great battle to the god of the seven heads. So it's like, ooh, are the old gods coming back in 7.3?
So.
Yeah, she actually compliments you. She says, "You were a good choice. No other wielder has murdered their way across a continent quite like you have. I admire your endurance."
Yeah.
So yeah, if you do not play a Shadow Priest mage or Demonology Warlock, your artifact is sort of chill, but if you play any of these three specs, you have a very grumpy artifact weapon that just, yells these things. And right now there are a bunch of lines, and these were, added in 7.2.
Yeah, the next one we're going... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I was going to ask, oh, did you want to play the other ones?
Yeah. The next one we're going to listen to is Alunith. Now, this is the staff that is wielded by mages, right? Arcane mages?
Yep, this is the Arcane Mage.
Okay, so here it is. Once again, if you don't want to listen to it, please make sure that you are muted.
She lives! No! I will never let her bind me again!
Merely a lingering echo of her power. Nothing to be concerned about, child.
Even her echo prattles on endlessly.
Do you see now what I had to deal with?
Pah! I am every bit as mighty as the Tidestone, or any of these other musty relics.
A dream of perfect beauty.
Ridiculous. This world knows only pain, child. Do not trust her ramblings. I am the only true power here. You are better off without her. She lives.
Oops, sorry. I restarted that on accident. So he's talking about Egwene, right?
Yep. So she was the former owner of Alunith, and apparently the weapon is not happy to get hints or thinking that she's back in some form.
My favorite part about that by far is, do you see what I had to deal with? Like the mage staff is dramatic. It's like so
I like how
dramatic.
the maid staff is like, I'm more than the Tidestone. Like,
Yeah, like I'm just as
I'm the
good as
most
those other
important thing.
artifacts.
Yep.
So good. Like it's just like a snotty, bratty artifact. So good. The next one we're gonna listen to is the Skull of Minari, which I believe is Demonology Warlock.
Yeah, so this one talks to you because Thalkio, was a sorcerer on Argus, and he ended up, killed, and the spirit was trapped in the skull. So he is upset as well with everything.
Yeah.
This one is powerful, but stupid. It would make a worthless minion. Ah, my former master. The time for revenge is at hand. That fool saw me as little more than a trinket for harvesting power. He has paid for his lack of vision. The Legion has conquered this shore. Soon we shall conquer the Legion in turn. This place holds a mere fraction of the Legion's might. There are many horrors yet to behold. Do you smell the charred flesh upon the wind? Ah, the scent of home. Your last visit here was nearly the end of you. How fortunate that you now enjoy my company. This place is so like Argus, twisted, shattered, and broken. Almost makes me homesick. Your skills have improved significantly since we first met. Given a few 1,000 years, you may even rise to the level of my best apprentices. And here we are, the site where fools were vanquished. Remember, courage is no substitute for power. Do you sense it? The lifeblood of your world flows just under the surface of this place. I know ancient incantations which could tap into the lifeblood of your world. This would be an ideal place to unleash them. The Naga are a corrupted race. They possess arcane skill, but lack the finesse inherent to my people. I detest spirits, always blathering about their former lives. Consume their souls and be done with them. An intriguing use of soul energy. They could have accomplished so much had they merely applied themselves. This place reeks of the Titans. Careful. Power still echoes within this ancient golem. It would be prudent to destroy it before the Legion empowers it further. The deceiver scorned my talents when I still lived. Let us see which of us survives the battle to come. Ah, the skies of home. I did not believe I would see this world again.
So, Perk, what place is he calling home?
So first of just some backstory on how the skull came to be. So Thalkio was very talented at summoning and controlling demons, and he was building up this demonic army, and the plan was that he would use that army to take control of Draenei leadership. So Velen killed Jaden, for example, and Archimonde actually realized that Thalkio had this plan, and his army was destroyed, and then he was decapitated, and then his head became this artifact weapon.
So rude.
Yep. And because he was good at controlling demons in his life, the artifact weapon and his head was still good at controlling demons, which is why it's now the demonology artifact.
I mean, that all makes sense.
So at the very last part of the artifact knowledge book, it says that possession of the skull has passed between a handful of the elite generals. The Dreadlord Mephistroth, commander of the Legion's vanguard, and Azeroth was the last to be seen with it. So I think that one of the lines is like, oh, like, I see my master again. And I think that must be a line you see in the dungeon when you're about to fight that boss.
Yeah.
As for the Skies of Home, we did data mine that the final floor map name for Tomb was Twisting Nether. So we're not sure if that's what it's calling the Skies of Home, or if this is a 7.3 line for Argus, because that's where they all came from. But yeah, definitely interesting how he's like, oh, like, I'm going home. So
Yeah.
yeah, the
So
skull
he's
is,
talking about Argus
yeah.
then, right?
I think so,
Going to
unless
Argus,
he's talking
boys.
about.
Pack up your bags. We're going to Argus. Sorry.
So I think it's either that, or it's what you hear when he fights Kil'jaeden, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in the Twisting Nether again. Like that's where the demons are from."
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, either way, we're going to an exciting place if this very weird skull is happy about it.
Sure. Would you want to listen to, how long are these other ones? The Magni, Bronzebeard, are these long?
So they're like all mixed in. So for example, like I could just summarize them, or maybe Sass can drop links in. Like for example, most of the dialogue with Maiev is about like just work orders, like, oh, go here, great job on the world quest. But then she has these lines where she is paired up with Illidan again, and like that's like more interesting in the center of the YouTube clip. Also the Lich King one is interesting because he seems to be giving you orders related to the quest line you'll have to do to get the Death Knight class mount. And it involves something about like killing ruby dragons, or like dealing with corrupted bronze drakes and raising one of them up, and then a member of the bronze dragon flight becomes your Death Knight class mount.
Going to the Oculus, boys.
Yeah. So yeah, that explains why there's that Ruby Sanctum achievement.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I like the dragons, I don't want to hurt them.
I don't want to kill the dragons.
So we'll see how that all fits together.
Absolutely. And here, let me go ahead and, I don't know, I think Sash just linked this, but that is the link to all of the voice lines if you would like to listen to them, because otherwise this podcast would be very, very long. But we would also love your feedback. This is kind of a new thing that we just started doing, letting you guys hear voice lines and kind of talking about them and stuff. Let us know if that is something you would like us to put in future shows, or if you hated it and you don't want to ever see it or hear it again. Because if it is something that we'll do in the future, I will probably make us a nice little graphic that'll say, spoilerinos, mute if you don't want them. In other news, there are some other events going on in the 7.2 PTR. There are the beacon events, which is that part of the invasions, or is that part of the Broken Shore?
I think it's just a Broken Shore thing
that
happens. So there's like this ship, it's called the Centenax, and underneath there are demons that spawn, and you can kill them, and you get these portals to spawn even scarier demons, and there are even beacons that spawn that like have various profession nodes when you get to higher end ones, and you can also get nether shards from them if you remember the invasion currency.
Oh,
and
nether
with
shards.
the and now with the nether shards you can buy sort of timeless
Are
isle
they the
style
same
gear.
nether shards?
I think so. Yeah,
I
they look
kind of
exactly
have a ton
the same
of those in my bank.
Oh, well, that seems like that's very good.
I save everything. I am like a hoarder. It's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. But wait, this is semi-related to what we're talking about. It's not really related to the podcast, but I need to share. So I was at my local mall the other day, and Kirkland's, like the home goods store.
Yeah.
So our Kirkland's is moving, so they had this crazy, like, must get rid of everything sale, and I bought this enormous 40 by 30 painting of like a barn, and it's just a barn, and then there's like ground and sky, but it's overall a very empty painting. It's just this barn, and I'm gonna overpaint it to have a Legion invasion, and I'm gonna like paint the foreground to look kind of like Westfall.
You need Demon Hunter Pepe in there.
I know. Oh, I'll do it.
I'll protect you against the
So
Legion.
someday when I have free time, that's like my next project, is doing this demon invasion barn painting. I bought it was like $12. It was so cheap. It's enormous.
That's a good
It was
deal.
probably like $100 originally. It was very exciting for me. So anyways, that's not relevant to the podcast. I just wanted to share. In other things that are being tested on the 7.2 PTR, some of the new PvP brawls that are coming. Now, PvP brawls, for those of you who might not be up to speed on what's going on, they're adding a new PvP game mode that'll change every week, just like they do in Overwatch, or the Tavern Brawls in Hearthstone, or the special game modes that are in Heroes of the Storm, and there's a bunch of very cool ones coming. We're going to see the return of Hillsbrad versus South Shore. There will be like a winter version of Alteric Valley, so there'll be like very poor visibility and, you know, snow everywhere. There is one that everybody's mounted all the time, so it's kind of almost like jousting, but not quite. There's Warsong Gulch where you can capture the flag.
I think that one's being tested. I think that's being tested right now, actually.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah,
maybe by the time this video is up, we'll have tested
the jousting one.
Yeah, the Warsong related one.
Oh, the Warsong one. Yeah,
yeah,
and then the one that Wowhead has a video up right now is Gravity Lapse, Eye of the Storm, where gravity doesn't really work properly. So when you jump, you like shoot out.
It's not even when you jump, you just like, it just happens to you.
Yeah, it just
And if you're mounted when it happens and you don't dismount, when you fall back down, you'll die. So the idea is that like you keep getting thrown up into the air and you can, you know, go to different places on the map really easily. So like if you're about to die and you get thrown up into the air and you have a flag, like you can just scoot over to another node and capture the node and get away from, you know, the enemies.
And this is just supposed to be kind of a game mode to get people who maybe aren't necessarily into PvP feeling like they can dip their toes. I'm gonna yawn. I'm so sorry. To dip their toes in the water and try out something they haven't tried before, and to give PvPers a little more variety and fun. I think this is a really great idea. One of the things I'm most excited for are these air quotes large-scale arenas. Team Deathmatch! So excited.
Yeah. This is, slightly unrelated, but I saw Vin Diesel on Facebook was like, I'm playing 2v2 Arena with my friends. And I don't think he actually streamed that, but he like had a little video of him like getting ready and logging on to WoW.
That's so amazing.
Yep.
He's the best.
Yep.
He's the best. That's amazing. That is amazing. Also, on the 7.2 PTR, there is a new Order Hall recruit for Paladins. He is Maximilian of North Shore, and apparently his questline is sort of hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, if you're familiar with him, he is the very confused paladin in Ungoro that thinks that dinosaurs are dragons, and he's sort of running around, and he's trying to rescue damsels in distress, but they don't need his help. And yeah, he's kind of, he means well, but he's kind of a mess. So in this quest line, he comes back and he's like, I'm fighting the demons on the Broken Shore. And he thinks that the Murlocs are demons. And he's like, oh, you know, like my armor is missing and this demon took my horse and my weapon is gone. And of course, like the horse is just hanging out with a Murloc. And the funniest part is that when you get his weapon, it's called Excaliberto. And the flavor text, and it's like an artifact quality weapon, but the flavor text is actually not an artifact. And when you give all these things back to him and turn in the quests, you have that little artifact host cutscene where like he like slow-mo walks onto the rock and, you know, holds the weapon above his head and has like the text come up that says Excaliberto, like he got his own artifact. So
that's amazing.
He's a funny guy, and I'm glad they have some flavor into getting these new 7.2 followers. There are more that are coming, but they didn't. Not all of them are open for testing yet. He was definitely the funniest one.
That's amazing. All right, so moving on to live servers.
Yep.
If you guys remember, back in December, World of Warcraft launched a new battle pet to benefit charity. They also had a little plushie in her likeness. This was Mischief the Fell Kitten, and it was announced this week that Mischief's charity fundraising netted $2.5 million to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, officially making her the most charitable pet ever in World of Warcraft. I think the one under her would be the Cinder Kitten, was at 2.3
Yeah,
million.
Perks and Thieves, some more credits tallies them.
Yeah,
you know,
I tallied it up in my video, and I want to say it was like 23.9 million.
Yeah, something like that.
Altogether, it was a lot of money over the past few years, so that is amazing. I am excited for whatever they decide to do next time because I'm a sucker. I always buy it every single time. And then also, we were just talking about Facebook integration. Yeah. And just yesterday, the beta version of the BattleNet client was updated so that you can now port your friends list from Facebook to your BattleNet friends list so that you can add your Facebook friends who have also ported their Facebook friends list to their BattleNet account. So you might be able to sync up with some people that you didn't previously know were playing the same game.
There was a really funny high-rated comment on Wowhead's Facebook about this being like, oh, like what if I automatically like pull people in and like now I have my boss on my list and he can see I'm playing WoW when I'm out sick. Like
that's amazing. Probably don't do that if you're friends with your boss on Facebook. That's amazing.
Yep.
I don't think it automatically adds them to your friends list. I think it just gives you the option to add them.
Right. No. That would be scary. Anything that auto opts you is not good.
Still hilarious, though. Also going on right now is Love is in the Air, and I made this nifty graphic to show you some of the stuff that you can get this year. As of this year, you can now queue at level 16 for the Crown Company for your chance to get the Love Rocket, which you see at the top there. I have not gotten to run this a single time yet because I've been busy. So today I'm hoping to go through and do a clean sweep on all of my characters. The loot will scale to whatever your level is, just like Time Walking or Legion Invasions, which is really nice. There's also the new toys, the Love Boat, which you see down at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. The little guy wearing the white shirt and the black pants, he is included. He is part of this. I don't know the ethics.
I did not know that, but that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he paddles you around. It's a two-person boat, and when you sit together, little hearts and stuff pop up over your head, and that little guy, I'm going to call him Ronaldo. I don't know if that's his name, but Ronaldo paddles you around, and it's very romantic. Very romantic indeed. There's also the Sturdy Love Fool, which is right above the boat, and he is a target dummy. This was very controversial when it first was on the PTR. He was called, like, stupid ex-boyfriend or something like that, and people were so upset. So now he is the Sturdy Love Fool. Those will cost you 270 tokens for the Love Boat and 100 tokens for the Sturdy Love Fool. A good place, or not tokens, charms. If you are farming those lovely charms, one of the best places currently to do that is in Everbloom Normal, but check out the Wowhead comments for more areas where they can be farmed.
Yeah, there's also 2 new dailies in Shadowfang Keep, so you are earning more like love charms, per day if you do all the dailies than you were in past years. And one of them is just like the Crown Company is in a new area, and the second one is that there's a piece of paper, you click on it, turn it in, and you get 3 more tokens, as well as this Crown Company evil perfume that just turns you into a zombie, and you look very cool.
Of course it does. This event will run through February 21st, and if you've done it in the past, you'll notice that this year the decorations in your cities are now going to be high resolution. We featured them a couple months ago on Wowhead. They are much nicer looking than they were previously. Also, you can still get the stuff like the Swift Lovebird, which is the pink flamingo, Petal Feet, the little goblin, which, by the way, he's awesome for pet battles if you're interested in that kind of thing. This is a great pet to pick up. And also I believe that's the Disgusting Oozling. Is that... Is that what he is? He drops from the Chemical Crown Company, the little box.
I think he eats critters and gets larger.
He's amazing. He's really gross. And he gives you, I feel like he gives you a buff that says like gross or something like that.
Yeah, one sec. Let me just pull this up.
Yeah. He has a toxic wasteling. And he gets bigger.
Yeah, the toxic wasteling. Oh, I just went to the page, and the first comment I see in all caps is, "It can eat Pepe. Watch out."
Oh no! Oh no, the blob strikes again. So if you do not have him, definitely grab those guys up. Also, as you have probably heard by now, the WoW token is now live and available to be used for things other than just game time. You can now buy the WoW token from Blizzard. It will cost you $20 US, 20 euros, or 15 pounds. And you can choose, once it's sold on the auction house for gold, the person who buys it for gold can choose to either put 30 days of World of Warcraft game time on their account or credit their Battle.net balance, $15 US, $12.99. It would be 12 euros 99, or £9.99 in Great British pounds. So if you are trying to spend some gold to get some Overwatch boxes or Hearthstone cards or skins, mounts, pets, all sorts of stuff like that. I do believe that you will be able to buy things like the expansions or whatever as they come out. It's pretty much any digital goods.
Also, if money is not an issue for you, and you're like, oh, we don't have much time to play and I want gold, like, this is a really good time to sell tokens. Because prices are double, triple what they usually are.
Even like $20. Like, I mean, not that we're all browsing the black market of gold selling, but I feel like getting something like 60, 70, 100K for $20 feels like a really good turnaround.
Yeah, I sold it when at its peak and it was like definitely over 100,000 for a few of them. So
yeah, there were people I talked about it in a video today, and a lot of people were telling me what they saw it peaked at. And I think the highest I saw somebody say it was 140.
Yeah. And Europe is, of course, higher than US. So, yeah, that's been a thing. I know it went live on US realms a few days before EU realms, but it's live everywhere now. And, yeah, this was another thing that they brought up at the BlizzCon Q&A, and we saw it in data mining with 715 and didn't know when it would go live, and it just appeared on Monday. So yay,
Surprise!
that feature.
Surprise!
This was also a total surprise. Well, it was another like sort of data mining surprise. But yeah, this was like super popular news. This was like more popular news than like any live or PTR stuff. So
well, yeah, and that's because it was something that people were looking forward to, and like I think that there's a lot of people.
The upcoming news.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people sitting on a lot of gold, and there's a lot of people that have $20 to spend and would rather have gold. So I think it's just something that's very exciting for a lot of people. Yeah. Speaking of very exciting for a lot of people, that transition. Starting on February 14th through March 14th, there is a Heroes of the Storm promotion called For Azeroth, which just makes me think of frickin' the Warcraft
this
movie.
Was the thing I was saying was like the most popular thing we like ever posted about, believe it or not.
Yeah, and you can actually earn this really sweet flame saber, the primal flame saber mount, which you'll get in World of Warcraft, along with the flaming judgment mount in Heroes of the Storm, and a 10-day stim pack. All you have to do is play 15 games with a friend while you are playing a Warcraft hero. Now, it doesn't matter if it's 15 different friends. The games don't need to be played consecutively. It doesn't matter what your friends are playing.
AI mode works for this, like the Overwatch promotion. You don't need to like be uber competitive. You can just do the game, see the game.
Yep. So, and Heroes of the Storm is a free game. So this is a totally 100% free mount, and you get a free mount in HOTS as well. So definitely check it out. You have a whole month to do it. You could do one game every other day. It would be not a big deal at all.
Also, like if you haven't played before, I think when you either do the tutorial or cancel out the tutorial, you get a choice of a free WoW hero. I think it's like Jaina, Muradin, or Tyrande. So you don't need to spend any money buying heroes. And if you've sort of played HOTS, if you have it installed, like there's always a free hero rotation, and it always has some WoW heroes on it. So you don't need to spend any money getting heroes to be eligible for this.
Yeah, and if it's a game that you end up liking, you could always buy a WoW token for gold and then buy heroes that way. Sorry.
I was going to say with the data mining that we've had this like encrypted file called like Firecat mount for a really long time, and encrypted means that we can't show you what the models were, and we thought it was something special because the BlizzCon Murlocs were sort of had the same secrecy. So we're like, oh, what's this Firecat going to be used for? Now we're like, oh, it's this primal flame saber.
Yeah.
So we can't show the mount quite yet on Wowhead, but as soon as they let us see the model, we will have our video and dressing room previews and all that up. But yeah, just interesting how like Blizzard will do some things like the WoW token where they'll put it in the data, to build a pipe. And then other things like this flame saber mount, it's like, oh, top secret. Like you cannot see what the model is until like we make the blue post on it.
It's on a need to know basis.
Just interesting. Yep.
Very, very secretive. In other news, as far as what's going on live servers, I believe it was the final wing of LFR opened in Nighthold.
No, it's just wing 2.
Oh my god!
We got a ways to go. It's every other week is an LFR
because it's
wing,
every other week. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So the second wing opened in Nighthold on LFR difficulty. Also, the Mythic race is over. Exorcist was the first guild to kill Mythic Gul'dan, followed by Serenity, and Method came in third. There will not be a kill video until at least 5 guilds have killed Gul'dan, because you gotta keep them strategies secret, boys. There is a secret phase 3 mythic phase called the Demon Within, which is like a possessed Illidan phase.
It's like his life husk's like someone corrupted, and it's like, who could that be? But like that's what I'm looking forward to seeing in the kill video. Like we know that phase 1 and 2 is different than normal and heroic, but for phase 3 we only have this teaser of like something with Khadgar and Gul'dan and Illidan. It's like, well, like I want details, like what actually happened. So we'll see that in the video soon. 2 more guilds have to kill it.
Yep. And then
I was gonna say just the wipe count stuff was interesting. Method does like daily raid coverage, and they were comparing the wipe counts that guilds were tweeting about, and like Method had like way more wipes on Star Augur, who was the 8th boss, and like their wipe total to Gul'dan was more competitive with the number 1 guild. And Serenity, who was the first guild to reach Gul'dan, had way more wipes on Gul'dan, so that's how they lost the number 1 spot.
Oh, wow.
So just, like, interesting to see how, like, one guild pulls ahead on one boss and, like, one falls behind on a different one, or everyone does well on the same boss, stuff like that. Just
yeah, absolutely. And before we wrap up the show, the quarter one earnings report was released. Thank you so much for subscribing to us.
Thank you.
And the monthly active users has increased by 10% for 2016, and quarter four had the highest playtime compared to other non-launch quarter fours.
So I mean, I sort of take a little not issue with it, but the way it's worded kind of reminded me of people being like, "Oh, we are like the top 2-day guilds in the U.S. on our server." Like, there's so many qualifiers with that because Legion came out towards the end of quarter three, and a lot of people are hitting max level at the start of quarter four.
Yeah.
And, it's like, well, obviously, the quarter four after the new expansion, is going to do better than the other
because
quarter
Legion
fours
came
in the
out in
last 4
August.
years.
What was it, August 10th? And then
August 30th.
August 30th.
So,
And then, it was literally the last day of the third quarter.
yeah, and it's like, well, you're comparing this to Warlords for a year, but like, oh, we're not going to compare it to when Warlords came out because that was the launch Q4. Like, I get they're trying to make it look good, and I feel like people are analyzing this a lot because Blizzard doesn't give you subscriber numbers, but just like take it with a grain of salt. What I did find interesting was that this was sort of a cool factoid. Where is it? Okay, so in 2016, consumers spent approximately 43 billion hours playing and watching Activision Blizzard content, on par with Netflix and over 1.5 times Snapchat. So that this isn't just WoW. This is like, Blizzard and like Candy Crush and everything else. But just, that's a big number.
Yeah, it's a huge number. That's a huge number. And also, Overwatch was one of the biggest moneymakers for Blizzard. No surprise there.
Yep.
It was probably 80% of that.
Also, they said that Hearthstone had 2016 record MAU. MAU is a term we use a lot on websites, but like if you're just like what is an MAU? It's monthly active users. So it's like whether you like visit a site like once a month or like 30 times a month, you still count as one MAU.
Yep.
So like obviously Blizzard wants to get like as many people playing, and they're more focused on getting people to log in on a monthly basis versus having them do something every single day. What was I going to say? Oh, before we went into merchandise, Sass just told me to point something out, which I think is a good thing to point out. Recently, talking about events on Wowhead, recently on Wowhead, as part of our mission to like, highlight alternates to ads while still making money in partnerships. We partnered up with this company called Stanza, which does calendars for a lot of, sports teams or newspapers that have entertainment or movie sections. And, they have some WoW players on the team, so they reached out to us. And we have this calendar now with upcoming WoW events on the bottom of every page on Wowhead, and we are updating it ourselves. So we're including like in-game events, but also stuff like the LFR wing is next week, or like the new PvP season, or this year is the Storm promotion.
That's cool.
So you can also subscribe to the calendar, and then you will get like notifications to your phone when it's time for the event to start. And every single Stanza like calendar square, when you click on it, it will have a link going to the related Wowhead guide, so you can learn more.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just the more people that subscribe, that also helps the site. So we appreciate people that do so.
Yeah. I put Wowhead's webhook in our Discord.
Nice. That is so popular. We should talk about that too.
A thing.
Yeah. So Wowhead, we set up a Discord webhook a few in December actually, and it's really popular. Like I think we get more clicks on it than we do from something like Twitter, and we've had our Twitter, for years, and it's it's huge. But we have a Discord webhook, so you can just whenever we post news on Wowhead, it just will like show up in your channel.
Yeah, so you can make a channel that's like Wowhead News, and then like you just put the webhook in. It's really easy because I am not good at anything, and I figured it out. And then it'll just automatically post Wowhead News whenever it goes live.
Yeah, I think it's almost even better than Twitter because, like, if you're in Discord and you're talking about WoW with your friends, you're actively caring about WoW. So when you see the news, you really want to click on that news. While on Twitter, you could be like, I don't know, politics or like, entertainment or just, you miss it because, like there's so much on Twitter
There's
while
a
on
lot.
Discord. It's like just
and
focused
these
WoW
days
talk.
people follow 1,000 people, and how do you keep up with that?
Yep.
Alrighty, so we gotta get wrapping up here. It is getting late.
Yep.
I'm like fading fast. Before we wrap up though, we do have a new Blizzard Gear Shop discount code this month. It is Wowhead15 for 15% off all Warcraft products. And that's a pretty blanket code. We don't normally get ones that are as big as 15%, especially ones that cover, all Warcraft products.
Yeah, we were delayed in January getting it, so they were nice, and they gave us this, big code to use.
And then also a new Wild Bangarang leggings collection has launched.
Which the discount code actually works on when you order them from the shop.
Yes, and they're awesome. Perk and I will be showing these more in detail later on, but they have the Doombringer, Kirin Tor, Maiev, Sylvanas, Illidari, Xavius, and Illidan leggings. They are available from wildbangarang.com if you are in the EU. If you're in the US, though, I would recommend getting them from the Blizzard Gear Shop and using our 15% off code because it'll work. And who doesn't like a good discount? But yeah, guys, I think that is about it for this week. I want to take a moment to thank everybody who joined us live and who is subscribed to us, follows us, watches us on YouTube, is a member of Wowhead Premium, which is a monthly subscription kind of thing to Wowhead that'll remove all the ads, and it directly supports Wowhead. It's only $1 a month. It's very cheap, and if you get a year at a time, I think it's like $9 for the whole year. So thank you so much to everybody who does all of those things. We really appreciate it. There will not be a show next week because I will be in Orlando for the Full Sail University Hall of Fame induction celebration, but we will be back the following week. We might move the show up a couple days so that there's not as big of a gap, but we'll let you know. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, at Perculia, at Trade Chat, at Wowhead, to keep yourself in the loop with this show. I think that's it, though. You guys all have a wonderful weekend. Perk as well. We are going to go. I appreciate you guys watching again. We will see you soon. Goodbye, guys.
Yep. Bye.